everybody. Welcome back to the Unscripted podcast with Rosabelle. I'm your host, Rosabelle. I'm a nurse practitioner, author of The Courage to Succeed, a True American Dream, and your companion on this journey through real conversations about purpose, wellness, and the courage to grow. Today's guest is truly extraordinary. He's a scientist, an innovator, a rescuer, a performer, a man on a mission to change the way we treat pain, disease, and trauma. So please welcome Bob Ross.
Hello, it's my pleasure to be on. And wow, that introduction, I'm gonna have to try and live up to that. That's awesome.
Well, I haven't even finished yet.
Oh,
Bob, see, Bob holds a pending PhD in medical physics. He has worked alongside elite institutions. He received both presidential and congressional honors. Is that right?
yeah.
You have helped develop game-changing cancer therapies. And you even brought a man back from the dead. Yes, you heard
Yes.
right.
Very
Yes.
exciting.
And he's also the author of The Hidden Secret of Healing, to Healing, right?
Yes.
And so what we're about to do here is we're going to explore his life, his discoveries, and the unconventional wisdom that just might change yours. How about that? Welcome back again.
Awesome. That sounds good. I'm all in.
All right. So why don't we begin, or why don't we start at the beginning? So you had a 4.0 in physics and were accepted to a top-tier doctoral program at Harvard. What drew you away from the lab into the realm of healing and clinical medicine? I want to know that.
Absolutely. First, if I can kind of go back, I grew up in a wonderful family, wonderful Christian loving family. My mom was a professional musician, played multiple instruments, beautiful singing voice, had perfect pitch. So I played trumpet, guitar, and piano growing up, and I'd be in the living room playing the piano. She'd be in the kitchen. Bob, should have been a C sharp. But my dad, and you're going to find this something, my dad was a mortician.
Oh, wow.
His dad was a mortician. It was a family business. I was the oldest boy. I was supposed to be an undertaker. And yet I went into medicine. So according to my father, son, you've gone to the dark side. In fact, when I got a big award from the fire department, my dad put his arm around me and said, son, your mother and I are so proud of you and all the life-saving awards you've won. But son, you're bad for business. Daddy, oh, that's the best compliment you could ever give me. I love it. Oh, and one quick story.
Oh,
One
yes.
quick story. So, of course, I grew up in a mortuary helping my dad, and I go on calls with him, and I was excited when I was 16 because I could finally drive the limousine and pick up the family and go on the police processional to the cemetery, and I finally got to do my first solo pickup because people pass away in the hospital, nursing homes, in homes. If the coroner's willing to sign that they don't have to be taken out until we get there. And so I was very excited, 16 years old. So I get to Providence Hospital. I'm told the patient's on the fourth floor. So I go to the fourth floor, check in with the nurses station. And they say, oh, he's still in 423. Oh, he hasn't been taken out to the morgue? No, no, he's still in 420. Oh, good. Because it's, 1:30 in the morning. This is my first solo run. So I walk in and he's on the bed and his wife's at the foot of the bed and she's sobbing. And we have like an ambulance gurney. So I put it in and I said to her, I'm Bob Ross from Ross Hollywood Chapel. I'm so sorry for your loss. So I put the gurney next to the bed and I picked him up and pulled him on the gurney. And when I did that, he went, oh, I about peed in my pants. Her head pops up. She says, who'd you say you're with? Uh, Ross Hollywood Chapel. The mortuary? Yes. He's not dead. The guy in that bed was dead. They just took him out 5 minutes ago. I said, well, maybe this isn't the career for me. Anyway, so when I went to college, I actually started as a double major in music and physics. And I found out the first week that they both required, starting from day one, so it'd be a 6-year process. So I had to pick one or the other. So I got a degree in physics with a specialty in nuclear physics. And I found out about the field of medical physics because I always loved medicine. Even I was like 6 years old, had a little siren on my bicycle right around the neighborhood, bandaging people up, even if they didn't need it. So I always had that love. And so here's a great way to apply my physics to medicine, and it was primarily in cancer therapy. There's other uses for medical physics, but that was my specialty. And I was one of three people who got accepted into a very prestigious doctoral program at Harvard, and I turned them down. I know my mother thought the same thing. You did what? Mainly because they really wanted you to focus on research once you got your doctorate. I'm a
Right.
people person. I wanted to treat people with cancer. So that's why I went to another very famous medical school. And when I was there, I helped make one of the biggest breakthroughs probably ever in cancer therapy. It's called the hyperthermia effect. So hyper. So we found that if you increase the temperature of cancer cells, it made cancer cells weak. So if you did that, just heated up the body, sauna, nowadays we have infrared, far infrared, which is, much better. You could even do it chemically. Did that before a treatment, you could use much less chemo and radiation. And we were
Wow.
published peer reviewed, the scientific standard, and it basically got suppressed in the US. And as I found out later, it probably was because it was cutting into profits. In fact, once I was told, Bob, it's the business of medicine, it's not healthcare. But I got into medicine to help people. I was nauseous. I was so disillusioned and so sad. And I found other things in when I was there that in nature that helped cut up blood flows to tumors. And I said, oh, when are we going to start using this? Well, never. But there are no side effects. But it's from nature. We can't patent it.
Yes.
And that, well, unfortunately, you know that reality as well. I actually spent 11 years in school. I finished my internship and I walked away from the field of traditional cancer therapy. Yeah. That's why I went into emergency medicine. I actually signed up with the Pasadena Fire Department. They had an EMS reserve program, which was great because that means I volunteer. I don't get paid, but it gives me the flexibility because I was playing trumpet professionally, doing stand-up comedy and voiceover work and traveling and touring. That gave me that flexibility. So it was like a win-win. And but obviously, since I wasn't being paid with the fire department, and entertainment stuff comes in waves, and so I needed another income wave. So I started working as a motion picture set medic. So I've worked on the amazing. So we have a medic on set for when stunts go wrong, things blow up that weren't supposed to blow up, right? People have medical problems. So I worked on the Amazing Race, Criminal Minds, several of the CSI, SWAT, SEAL team. Worked on two of the later Star Wars. Was lead medic on American Ninja Warrior for 5 seasons. I was busy on that show. Unbelievable. But it was great. In fact, can I tell you a fun, quick story?
Absolutely.
So I'm working on a live show. Did I mention it was live? And during one of the shows, the boom camera that gets those great aerial shots was making a quick move over the audience, too low. The guy about 6'2" stood up, bam, clocked him in the head. Hundreds of pounds in motion, whack. So I get to the guy's on the ground, just, dazed and blood dripping from his head. So I tried to stop his bleeding and stabilize him. And I hear my earpiece from the director, Bob Medic, keep your head down. We can see you on camera. What? We're still live? We haven't cut to commercial? We're still live. Keep your head down.
Wow.
So I'm literally laying on my belly on the ground trying to help this guy. In about 10 seconds later, I hear from the director again, Bob Medic, tell the guy to quit moaning. We can hear him on audio. Tell him to shut up. Sir, we just whacked you in the head, but zip it. Welcome to Hollywood. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Yes. One of the most challenging shows I worked on, movies I worked on, was Jackass 4. I don't know if you're familiar with the Jackass series. Really nice guys, but they want to get hurt. That's the whole premise.
Yes, I remember that one.
Yes. So that was very challenging. Really nice guys, but oh man, it was nonstop
My,
cutting
my
gloves.
question is, are they still alive?
Um,
Maybe.
yes.
Okay.
but with limitations.
Right?
Yes. So,
Whew.
um, but over the years, I noticed that, well, actually, friends of mine noticed that I was self-sabotaging success. So I'd have wonderful things just dropped in opportunities, financial opportunities dropped into my lap, and all of a sudden something weird would happen. And they were seeing me, well, Bob, you did that. You made that happen. No, I wanted to be successful. So I was really focused on why I would self-sabotage. And I forgot to mention that, well, actually, when I was at the medical school program, I
Hmm.
was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Wow.
And it was quite intense and a very difficult case. And they had experts working on. And looking back, I realized I don't think anybody ever asked me or talked to me about the possible cause. I think I even brought it up. Well, we're focused on what we have right here, but we got to get to the cause, right? And fortunately, I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Everything's great. Um, but that's true in medicine in general. Our focus nowadays seems to be treating symptoms as opposed to finding the cause of that. So
Yes.
that's what made me think, well, wait a minute, there has to be a cause for me self-sabotaging my success. And it always is from the past, usually from childhood trauma. Right? So I actually invented a brain technique that can resolve that trauma and reprogram the subconscious part of the mind. That's where our beliefs are to not. In fact, the key was my brain didn't think it was safe to be successful, which logically doesn't make any sense at all, especially not to me. No, I want to be. But if the brain, your subconscious mind doesn't think it's safe, you will self-sabotage. So
Yes.
even shows like Biggest Loser that I worked on, the one thing I wish they had done, they didn't know about this, so it's not a criticism to them, was when I got to know these people, almost all of them had unresolved emotional trauma. And that's why I call it comfort food. So you can teach them to diet and exercise and they will lose weight, but if their brain doesn't think it's safe to look good, right, especially if they've been sexually abused, they will sabotage that, right?
And the brain doesn't distinguish between reality and fiction.
Exactly, which is which is pretty amazing. But we can use that to our advantage,
Oh,
as you're soon going to
see?
find out. Yes.
Okay.
So I come from a line of well, I think there are like 140 patents in my family line. My grandfather is a famous research chemist, and so I get all these wonderful ideas all the time, and that's how I got the download about developing this brain technique and understanding how the mind works. Now, one of the things I discovered, and this will be very helpful to your listeners, is the brain works on questions. Your brain has to answer a question. So if I ask you a question, even if it's a stupid question, right, your brain has to answer it. There's no question. And our biggest challenge is we ask ourselves questions all the time, but they're almost always negative. Why am I always late? Why can't I do this right? Why am I such a bad uncle? And your subconscious mind has to answer that and prove with, oh, because of this and because of that, that's why which is just reinforcing. Okay. That's why affirmations aren't very effective because you're making a statement, I'm success, like in my case, I enjoy success, I want success. And that's the conscious mind. And then that's like the filter, and then it compares it to what you believe, which is in your subconscious mind. Oh no, that's not safe. And so I could say that affirmation all I wanted, right? I got to reprogram that belief. So, and as a result of that initial breakthrough, I started a deep dive into natural medicine, how the body heals, and also in terms of helping people heal of emotional trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, phobias, addictions. I studied with a lot of people, but the most powerful thing I ever did was get to study with Gary Craig, who developed EFT. Now, for those of you who don't know what EFT is, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's also known as tapping. Because it turns out if you tap on right where a nerve comes to the
Mm-hmm.
surface of the skin, very specific spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sends an electrical signal down that nerve. In the same way the doctor pounds on your knee, he's checking nerve function. Because if he hits the nerve, what does your leg do? Right? Well, it turns out, and we finally have discovered this to be true, that when you suffer any kind of emotional trauma, whether something happened to you or you saw something happen, like in war, you saw a child get hit by a car, anything like that, there's an electrical in your nervous system. That's what they recently discovered. We've known for a long time that that results in electrical disturbance in your nervous system. They call it electrical perturbation. It's like an electrical tumor. Yeah, I'm like electrical tumor and this and that and the other things like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Sorry, couldn't help. I love the way he talks and teaching the CPR classes and the pumping of the chest and this. I got to work with him when he was governor. Really nice guy. So now, what was I saying? Oh, I hate it when brain cells die in public. Uh, what was I saying?
I was listening, I promise, but I was like, man, I started thinking about Arnold then. So
Oh,
then I
yes.
got
Oh,
distracted.
yes.
See?
Thank you. So I was talking about Gary Craig.
Yes,
Yes.
about the
So
tapping.
the tapping. So it's an electrical problem with the nervous system. Now, talk therapy is wonderful, especially initially, right? But as you probably know, it's not very effective. People go for therapy several times a week for a year and have, a little bit of progress because it's an electrical problem. So your brain knows, and when I say brain, I mean the mind, right? The brain isn't the physical thing; it's the mind that's the most powerful. Your brain knows why, or I should say, where in your nervous system that electrical tumor is. And as you tap and think about, let's say, the car crash, right? The headlights coming towards me, headlights coming towards me. It'll send those electrical signals to that electrical perturbation. And just like we do with a cardiac arrest, we shock it. We treat an electrical problem with electricity. It literally dissolves the perturbation. So, as an example, I can usually help someone cure a lifetime phobia in one session. And again, there's a reason they have a phobia. They don't have it for fun. And again, it almost always goes back to childhood, right? I had a
It's a
guy,
protective mechanism.
yes, yes. In fact, I teach a little bit of the tapping when I teach CPR and first aid, because even if you're successful in bringing somebody back with when it was CPR, you can still have dreams and nightmares. And even though it was good, it all was good. So um, one of the gentlemen pulled me aside after the class and he said, "Hey, does that work for phobias?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I found a phobia of dogs for 40 years, and my sister's getting married. I want to go see her, but she's got a big dog, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I jump on a car when I see even a little dog." And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, really? Do you know why? Do you have anything from your childhood?" No, nothing. One of the great things about EFT is that it often triggers and reveals the cause. So we just tapping on the fear of dogs. I just had him imagine a dog, and he was like a 9 out of 10, freaking out. And in like 6, 7 minutes, he goes, "Oh!" I go, "Oh, we got him." "What?" He says, "Well, when I was about 6 years old, I was riding my bicycle, and this dog was foaming from the mouth, was chasing after me, trying to bite me at the legs." "Well, no wonder you have a fear of dogs. That trauma has been in your nervous system since you were 6 years old." So obviously, we stopped working about the fear of dogs and go to that trauma. And we got that from a 9 down to a 0. He closed his eyes, remembered the event. He couldn't even get upset, right? He went to see his sister. The dog ran to the door. He was calm as could be. She said, "Let's go to the dog park." He went, "What?" He went to the dog park. He was calm as could be. Hey, I saw him recently. It's been 4 years. He now has adopted a dog.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And
Yeah.
I will send you a link to a YouTube video that I did that is my training. Um, I have a real gift, and especially of understanding how this is working. There's interpretations of EFT tapping that's really bizarre. but and people have a hard time. Well, that's just woo woo, So this is actually how God designed our body to work and to heal. That's why it's so powerful. Um, so, oh, another really cool story. I invented a technique that takes headaches away in about 30 seconds based on eye movement. And a
Yes.
woman sent me an email and said, "Hey, Bob, does that work for migraines?" I
Well,
said, I said, yes, but you have to get it as the migraine first starts to set in, because once it sets in, it's like a claw. Now, EFT can actually be very effective for migraines. But I asked her, I said, well, why do you have migraines? Oh, they don't know. Really? They can't find anything wrong with me. Really? So she was up in Seattle. So I sent her an email of the spots we were going to tap on and called her on the phone. And I get a lot of intuitive hits. So intuition. So, like medically, on duty and off duty with the fire department, I'll literally hear go to a very specific spot at a certain time to save somebody who might have died otherwise. Happens all the time. I love it. Same when I'm working with somebody who has some sort of trauma. Sometimes it'll pop to them, and sometimes it'll pop to me. So again, we're just tapping on what was present. So the light sensitivity, how the pain felt, um, the nausea, all that stuff that goes along with the migraine. And all of a sudden I heard 14, 14. Hey, Mary, what happened? That's not her real name, of course. What happened when you were 14? And she just started to bawl. I said, I'm sorry I made you upset. What happened? Well, my mom got remarried and my stepdad started sexually abusing me. Oh, Mary, I'm so sorry. Mary, out of curiosity, when did your migraine start? When I was 14. Oh. And Mary, how did the migraines play into the abuse? That's what you wait for, that aha moment. And she said, the only time you wouldn't abuse me is when I had a migraine. Mary, you are so powerful. You were giving yourself a migraine to keep you safe. Remember, that's the whole point of our mind, is to keep us safe. I said, is he even still alive? No. But you still have migraines? Yeah. Mary, I bet it's when you don't feel safe. I never put that together. So we stopped tapping on the migraines
mhm.
and went to that abuse. Okay. Resolve that trauma, migraines disappeared.
Yes.
Now, in psychology, they call that a miracle. For me, it's normal. And that's how I want to live.
And it's
Just,
I believe in that the body keeps the score.
ooh,
You,
yes.
I bet you have read that book.
Hmm.
Yes.
Well, one of the terms they're using for that is cellular memory, right?
So as early, you mentioned age 14, I learned the term somatization.
Hmm.
Somatization. That it has to come one way or the other. And it comes expressed and physical symptoms, you name it. It has to, yeah, it's some sort of an energy that it's created.
Right.
There's trauma energy and it has to come out one
Yep.
way or the other.
And that's why sometimes symptoms can be quite the gift,
Yes.
right?
I
And
bet in neurology we see all these FNDs, the functional, all this functional.
Mhm.
We check for everything. We cannot find anything, and we have a pretty good idea. Okay, this is psychological. Somehow
Yeah,
we don't know exactly,
yeah,
but this is got to be psychological because it's a very very real for those people. And I try to be very very understanding when I have patients like that come to me
good,
because I want to let them know that I know that it's not just in their head, that
right.
they're not necessarily crazy. Yes, something is very real to them. May not show up in our tests and everything, but it is real for them.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, yep. So when I was treating cancer patients, I realized as I got to know them that probably 85% had unresolved emotional trauma.
Yes.
And the worst of it is when they have any kind of bitterness or unforgiveness, because as you know, any unresolved trauma, but especially bitterness and forgiveness, suppresses your immune system. And I don't know if your listeners know this, but we get cancer every day of our lives.
Yeah,
And
we
if you
have
miss this,
cancer cells. Yeah,
Yeah. And if the immune system is strong, it picks it up, recognizes it, produces interferon, interleukin, antineoplasms, takes care of it. But that's the key. The immune system has to be strong, right?
exactly.
So, uh, so it first started just helping people with post-traumatic stress disorder and phobias, addictions, and things. And then I realized, wait a minute, this needs to be applied to cancer patients because they can get wonderful therapy, you know, and they can get healed. But if they don't resolve that, they're in big trouble. In fact, I thought about the example. Let's say you moved into a new apartment, and unbeknownst to you, there is radioactive cobalt underneath the floor in your bedroom, which could give you cancer. So you get treated, you're now in remission, but you come back to your apartment and you continue to get exposed by what caused it, right? Okay, well, it's going to happen again, right? So
Exactly.
that's why it's really, really important to get to the core. Um, so that's why I started, am starting, just actually it's ready to go, a coaching program for cancer patients. So all the things I've learned about how the body heals and um, what cancer cells need to survive. And just like biology, if a cell doesn't get what it needs, the environment it needs to survive, it naturally dies. One of the examples it needs and feeds off sugar, especially refined processed sugar. And yet, and we've known this for years, and yet if you go to the hospital for cancer treatment, guess what they feed you? Coke, ice
Yeah.
cream, Jello loaded with sugar. Well, but and as a nurse practitioner, you understand that a lot of goes right over there. Like, well, what are we
Oh, yeah.
doing? Right. So there's that aspect of it, but then a huge aspect is to resolve trauma, get those things healed, and um, and I've always was fascinated ever since I was in the medical school program about the placebo effect. So but the whole idea about the placebo effect is people get a sugar pill, but they think it's a real drug because nobody knows what it is, right? And they don't tell people you're getting a sugar pill. And those that believe it's the real drug can get cured, but they weren't given anything. And if
Yeah.
you tell them about the side effects, they'll have the side effects, but they weren't given anything. And in medicine, they were so upset about the placebo effect. Oh, it's always getting in the way of our research. My thought was, wait a minute, why don't we promote that? In fact, even a simple thing like if you had an infection and your doctor prescribed you an antibiotic, if he said, this is the best antibiotic on the planet for exactly what you have, it would work better, even though it's the same chemical as it was before he said that, right? Because again, if we believe, now the nocebo effect is the reverse. So if you believe something's not going to work, you can actually stop it from working.
Exactly.
Yeah. And a good example of that is a friend of mine who got cancer and he had a very bad childhood. And when he got cancer, he couldn't believe the love and attention he was getting that he never got as a child. He didn't want to get better. He wanted to, right? But he sabotaged his own treatment so that he would keep cancer. And of course, it unfortunately took his
Yes,
life.
there's a lot of sick people out there that they're actually sick because of the attention that they get.
Yep.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately, yes. So this is a true story. I've got a lot of great stories as you're kind of picking up. So a gentleman who had severe multiple personality disorders. One of his personalities, let's say James, had full-blown diabetes, type 1, insulin dependent. His pancreas didn't work. Another one of his personalities, say Jimmy, had a fully functioning pancreas, no diabetes. So was there anything wrong with his pancreas? No. What was turning it on and off? His mind. And the good news, we don't have to have multiple personality disorder to trigger that. So that got the juices flowing again. And I was able to modify my brain technique that I developed. I call it the hidden secret brain technique, um, to help the person release that placebo effect at will. Because only about 35% of people get the placebo effect, right? In fact, as I mentioned, I was raised in a wonderful, loving Christian home. Kids just flocked to my house because there was so much love and acceptance and grace and mercy, and oh, it's just wonderful. But there was something I could never understand as a kid, and that's why God asked for our faith when it came to healing. Well, why does God need my faith? I thought he was God. You mean it's God saying, oh, if only Bobby Boy would believe I could pull this off, but I can't pull it off unless Bobby Boy believes? That never made sense. Nobody I talked to could answer, well, that's just the way it is. That's what, just. And then all of a sudden, I got the insight that that's the placebo effect. The people that get the placebo effect are the ones that believe, they had the faith that the
Right.
pill was the
Because
real pill.
God doesn't need, it's not for him, it's for us.
Exactly. And then what that meant was, oh, wait a minute. So God has already put that miraculous healing ability into our mind. We see it in our bodies all the time. You cut yourself, it automatically heals, right? You burn, it heals, all these things. But even miraculous healing, that ability is already in there. It's already like the water in a pipe. And faith is what turns on the spigot and releases it. So the possibilities obviously are mind-boggling. The fact is, I've got a whole book. It's like this thick on spontaneous remissions, people that got healed of cancer, all different types, every single type of cancer with no treatment at all. So the mind obviously has that ability. It can turn off, it can shut down cancer cells, it can do, all sorts of wonderful things. So that's what I'm very excited about. I was reminded even today of something my dad would say, son, tough things happen in life, and they'll either make you bitter or better, and the choice is yours.
Indeed.
So, so powerful. In fact, what I've learned even in life is if I just wallow in it, then I can't move forward. If I stop and think, okay, how can this benefit me? What can I learn that's going to benefit me going forward? I had things happen in the PhD program that were horrendous to me. I was just terrible things, and yet they turned out to be awesome because, again, I just had that attitude of I'm not denying that it's bad. Okay, and even in business, right? If something bad happens, okay, it's 10% focus on what's bad, and 90% on how do we fix it? How do we make sure that doesn't happen again? Improve all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, perspective.
Yep, yep.
A
So
good one.
needless to say, I'm very excited. But can I tell you something that I have never said publicly on a podcast before? Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Yes.
So I came across um, research of a German cancer specialist who noticed the exact same thing that I did, that probably 85% of his patients had unresolved emotional trauma. And but he took it to the next step of, so we know that the emotional trauma can suppress the immune system, but what if the emotional trauma can actually cause the cancer? Well, that's interesting. So he looked strictly at the biological response. So as an example, if you were to sprain your ankle, what happens to your ankle? It swells up, you get
So,
inflammation.
yes.
The biological reason for that is that rushes blood and oxygen, which helps it heal faster. And when it heals, what happens to the inflammation?
It goes away.
It goes away. Do we have to do anything? Do we have to stop that inflammation? No, the body says, okay, I don't need that biological function anymore, and reverses it. So, and the reason he found out about all this was because of his own experience of losing his son. His son was killed. So it turns out, with that kind of loss for a man, the biological response is for the testosterone to go through the roof. Now, that makes him more virile. Um, his wife can even pick that up. And the biological purpose is so they can have another child and replace the right child that's the biological purpose. But that high testosterone results in testosterone cancer. I mean, in testicular cancer. Right. So what he found is when that trauma was resolved, the testicular cancer would go away without any treatment because it was a biological response. And once that was resolved, just like with inflammation, it could go away. I go, wait a minute. Now I'm really getting excited. And he discovered, and I think it was 50,000 patients he worked with this. And he was just like me. It got suppressed. He got mocked. He got, it was just terrible because it came against the established, medical doctrine and all that. One thing real quick. Uh, since we were published, I think that actually got taken down, but for my hyperthermia breakthrough, if you go anywhere in the world where it's not for profit, like Germany, East Asia, cancer clinics in Mexico, the first thing they'll do is heat your body up. So I'm actually famous, but nobody knows it's me. And that's okay. Yeah. Anyways, so what he discovered is if it took 3 months for you to resolve that emotional trauma, or in his case, to replace the missing child, right, which helps resolve that emotional trauma, it would take 3 months for your body to heal from the cancer. So for women that lose a child, they usually get breast cancer, which again, biologically makes sense. Um, so that's when my little brain said, wait a minute, maybe I can modify my brain technique even more so that it doesn't have to take the 6 months or the year or whatever that they suffered that emotional trauma for the body to heal. And that's what I've done.
Very, very interesting. Very, very good.
Yeah. Again, it's having the mind disconnect the connection, the biological connection between the trauma and what's going on, and then instructing the mind to speed up the process, which you can do. Again, those spontaneous healings, some of them happened, and even though people get prayed for can have a miraculous instant healing. Instant, right? So we know it's possible. You can't see this, but I'm actually have a seatbelt on my chair because I'm about to jump out of my chair with excitement.
Yeah, and I am just like thinking because as you're talking, I'm just thinking about all these different things because I have
Good.
my mind is
That's a good kind of mind to have.
yes, yes. And I was gonna ask you,
Yeah.
one of the questions was gonna be like, what kind of message do you want to leave your our listeners with, especially those who might be stuck in the pain and doubting the power of healing? You have said a lot to it, but if you could just put it in one, something very tangible that they can perhaps remember. If they don't remember anything, what
Yes.
would that be?
So uh, that YouTube video I did on EFT training, so it's just a
Mhm.
summarized like 8-minute training, but part of that is a 3-minute follow along. And the thing about the tapping, this is true even if you don't believe it's going to work. It doesn't take belief. In fact, there were two
I believe.
psychologists, yeah, two psychologists that got trained, and they took the class with Gary Craig because they knew it was snake oil medicine. It didn't work. And so he asked them, they were just, and he says, well, do you guys still have unresolved things? Well, everybody does. Okay, well, you work on each other. You know it's not going to work, so it can't be the placebo effect, right? And it worked on both of them. They both got healed of something they couldn't resolve. In fact, a lot of times it's why they got into psychology, right? Because of that past trauma. So it turns out when you tap on these very specific spots, and it's very specific spots, if you're off, like this would not do it. It has to be right there, right? Right on the top of the head. It can't be off the side a little bit. Very, very, in the video, you'll see that. Um, it literally triggers the autonomic nervous system. And just 3 rounds, it only takes about a minute to do a round. Right? You'll literally feel yourself relax. And I know when I got my brain tumor diagnosis, I did not relax. In fact, I actually went in the mode of like I treated myself like a patient. I've done all this research, which kept me focused. And then when I went in, I was in intensive care for 8 days. And that's when the reality hit like, oh, Bobby, this is you. This isn't a patient of yours. And I was not relaxed, scared spitless. So, um, so just by doing that, you'll be more open to having wisdom. So we all have access to intuition. Now, women have an easier access to intuition than men do, but we all have access to it. And that's the key because that wisdom is is better than anything else. And people will get a gut feel like, ooh, I don't think I should take this treatment. Okay, well, pursue that. Okay, there's maybe a good reason why. Um, and they you can again use the tapping. They can follow along, and instead of tapping on release and let it go, relaxation, they can focus on any trauma that pops up, right? That they can
Absolutely.
remember, right? So first off, that's going to help their immune system. That's going to help them fight no matter what type of treatment they have. Uh, oh, and let me say this is very important. I forgot to say this disclaimer. So this conversation is not to be construed as medical advice. Always consult a healthcare professional prior to starting or changing any treatment program.
Thank you.
Yes. And it's true. And notice I said healthcare professional, not necessarily an MD. Now, I love MDs, but again, when I was in the medical school program, they weren't taught this stuff. And they only do what they're taught. That's not their fault, right? Um, that's one of the reasons I love emergency medicine. We're the best in the world, right? And we're looking for, oh, what's the cause of this? Let's see if we can resolve the cause. Oh, the pain is because, oh, there's a, oh, okay, we can do that. I love it, right? So, um, uh, okay, I'm going to say this. When I was in the medical physics program, we had to wear these badges. Like one of my research projects was thyroid function in scleroderma patients. We had to use radioactive iodine to scan their thyroids to see what was going on. So we had to wear these monitors that determine how much radiation we got. And that was because if you get exposed to too much radiation, you get cancer. Oh, okay. So I went to my professor. So exposure to radiation can cause cancer. Yes. Exposure to the chemotherapy agents can cause cancer. That's where they have to glove up and do all that preventative stuff, right? Yes. So how can radiation and chemo that causes cancer cure cancer? They said, well, it actually doesn't cure cancer. The whole point is trying to kill the cancer cells without killing the
Hmm.
patient. And I said to myself, well, huh. But now, let's say you've got all these dead cancer cells. Your body has to have a strong immune system to get rid of them. And we know that both chemo and radiation suppress the immune system. So it logically didn't make any sense. Right now, there are some cases, rare cases, it turns out, well, I'm told, rare cases, where that still is needed, right? Where chemo and radiation is actually appropriate for what's going on. But even if that's the case, there are things you can do, like liposome IVs of vitamin C or the liposomal form, which you can drink. It's about 95% as effective as an IV of vitamin C. Can help reduce and sometimes eliminate the uh, the side effects of chemo. Well, that's helpful. And my brain technique has been used. In fact, a gal who was going to get this, and she said, "No, I need to get this treatment." But the doctor told me I'm going to lose my hair. She said, "Well, I don't want to lose my hair." Well, 100% of people lose their hair, but I don't lose my hair. Sorry. 100% of people lose their hair.
Yeah.
So she used my brain technique and convinced her mind that she wasn't going to lose her hair. She didn't need to lose her hair. Her hair is going to be just fine. She was the only person in the history of that medicine so far that I know that didn't lose her hair. So
Well,
that's my encouragement to the listeners is to use your mind. It is fearful, and that's perfectly normal. So tapping is going to help that. I always recommend to see a functional medicine doc, so an MD who specializes in natural medicine, or a naturopath, or an osteopathic physician, someone who literally just focus on how the body heals. And we're always told to get a second opinion, right? Oh, we feel free to get a second opinion. Well, I
Yeah,
tell people, you talk to somebody, talk to a physician, get a second opinion from someone who specializes in natural medicine, and get into that relaxed state and just ask which is the best one for me.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I want to know, how can people connect with you? Or how can they learn more about what you do?
absolutely. So I have two websites. One is thehiddensecrettohealing.com, and maybe we can put these in the show notes.
Yes.
And that's for the cancer therapy and all that, my cancer coaching program. And on there is a free 45-minute masterclass on how to keep your body hostile to cancer cells, what you can do naturally to help, what you do if you have it, talks about my brain technique and so forth. And again, that's free. And then there's an option if people want to work with me to help them, they have that option. But the masterclass is absolutely free. And then I have a website for helping people with post-traumatic stress disorder, phobias, addictions, and that's the hidden secret to emotional healing. So the hidden secret to healing for cancer and the hidden secret to emotional healing. What I've discovered, and Dr. Hammer also discovered, that German physician, was that it can also result in things other than cancer. So emotional trauma can result in kidney issues and even gluten intolerance and allergies. Like, what? So if like a child was eating peanut butter at the same time their parents had this terrible fight and there were maybe physical violence, guess what they develop? An allergy to peanuts. They didn't have it before. It just suddenly appeared, and that's what he discovered. And again, when they resolved that emotional trauma, then the allergy actually went away. So it's always worth a try. Nothing to hurt, right? Plus, it's
Yeah.
great to resolve that emotional trauma.
Yeah. I need to find out where my allergies from cat came from out of nowhere.
Oh, you see?
One day I was around cats, no issue. I mean, I felt, and then one day this one cat gave me anaphylaxis.
Oh, anaphylaxis. So not just the sniffles, but
Yeah,
wow,
3 times
wow.
allergic to, but prior to that, I mean, so it's just like, so I started to wonder, and like, are these cats different? Wanted to
Yes.
research the cats, but anyways,
Yeah. But it's
well,
very, but it's very,
yeah.
very exciting. So exciting
Oh
of
yeah,
what is possible.
all the things that we can learn, that we can do for sure. Well, anything else that I have not asked you that you want to tell people?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me see. Um, oh, yes. Thank you. That just reminded me that I told you the first part of the why thing. You know, your brain always asks questions. It's based on questions, right? And most of the questions we ask are bad. So why am I such a bad uncle? Let's say that was my thought. And again, the brain's going to say, well, I'll show you why you're a bad uncle. All you have to do is flip it. Say, or why am I a great uncle? How am I a great uncle? Now your brain has to find out why that's true. Your subconscious mind has to answer that, and it's going to constantly work giving you ideas of how you can be a great uncle. And these ideas pop up because that's the other thing. When you do that, just be very aware of your intuition. A book is going to jump off the shelf. Why? And oh, I've read this subject before, but there's a reason that particular book got your attention. And sure enough, a solution is going to, or something that's going to really help you is there, right?
It's about reframing.
Reframing. Yep, yep. And uh, the brain technique uses the way that because the subconscious mind has its own language, its own time frame. So we can use that question part to, and it has its own brain frequency. So, the brain has different frequencies.
Mhm.
So right now we're in the beta frequency. That's normal. when people meditate, it lowers into what we call alpha. Okay? And then just below that is theta, which you experience right before you fall asleep. And usually it's just for a few seconds, and you might feel like you're suddenly floating, or you see pictures, even if you're not normally visual, and boop, you fall asleep. So I discovered a way to get into theta without falling asleep. Because when you're in theta, you have direct access to your subconscious mind.
Yes, I read about something like that. What about this video, YouTube video? Is it on your website?
It's on YouTube.
How do we find it?
So I will send you that link,
Okay,
and
and I
they
can
can
put it on
just
the,
show
yep,
notes, and they can just click the link. And
perfect.
yeah, and on the either of the websites, there's a way to contact me, send me an email or whatever.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Bob, I want to thank you. Thank you. Your journey from saving lives, reinventing how we understand healing. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it's an inspiration. I really hope that this conversation sparks something powerful in our listeners.
Yes,
So, like I said, to learn more about Bob, just go
to healing.
www.thehiddenSecret.com. See? And follow along his journey of mind body transformation. And as usual, please don't forget to connect with me.
Awesome.
See? Don't
There
forget
you
to
go.
connect with me, social media, everything would be like you said, will be on the show notes. And hey, great talking with you.
Thank you.
Great listening. I really love this conversation. And I would
Beautiful.
like to extend an invitation for you to come back sometime. And yes, so we
Normally,
can
I'm asked to
continue
leave.
talking.
Bob, use the back door, please. You're disturbing the guests.
No, I would like for you to actually come back and we can definitely talk more in depth, because there's so much to be discovered. I believe that. So it will do me an honor
Yes.
if you'll come back and
And something just popped in my mind. I have to mention it. So, um, when you get a bad diagnosis, you get fear and you don't feel like laughing. And yet, even in scripture, it says that laughter is like a medicine. Well, they've actually found that laughing, especially good hearty belly laughing, especially if you're crying, you're laughing so hard,
hmm
produces the anti-cancer drugs, the interferon, interleukin, and the neoplastins. And first off, that instantly you're helping your body heal of whatever you've
yes,
got just from laughter.
healing is
Now,
medicine.
I didn't feel
I
like
mean,
laughing. Yeah,
laughing is medicine. That's
yeah,
right.
I didn't feel like
Healing.
laughing. And sometimes you have to force yourself to laugh.
Yes.
Now, there's a doctor who knew this and he got cancer and he just watched Three Stooges movies because that always made him laugh. And he went into remission.
Yeah. My mom used to say if we don't laugh, we'll cry.
Oh, there you go.
So if every time I feel that, that's what I do. I
And
laugh.
sometimes it's just a matter of going,
Yes. Yes.
I just made myself laugh. And
And here's something I say. Pay attention to what I'm gonna do. For those who worry that laughing will give them wrinkles,
oh.
just do this.
And if they can see themselves in the mirror, they'll laugh even harder.
Right.
That's great.
I mean, if you're worried, just kind of like, yeah. But all I'm saying is laugh. That is
Laugh.
medicine.
Beautiful.
Don't worry about the wrinkles.
I'm so grateful you invited me.
Oh, I'm so thankful. Thankful that we got this time to talk. I love talking to people. I love sharing experiences. There's so much out there to learn. I also got lots of stories. Yes. And maybe later in another episode, we'll talk some more about things.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you
Beautiful.
so very much.
My pleasure.
So, alrighty, everybody. Well, until next time, remember, stay unscripted.